So the next part of the data input is jobs, and what the user has to do is create jobs. Doesn't really create the jobs, but he makes a record of the jobs that is in their organization. And say you have a new job, you give it the job title. I mean, creating one is this easy. It's new job. I'm going to pick one of the grade families that were created in the grades. So there's administrative. This then gives me a pull-down menu that I can pick a grade for that job. I can then ID it in any way that I want. And this document feature here is a nice feature. Say that I want to include a job description or an employment ad or a memo or something. I can just go do the select, and what it allows me to do is to find a document in my computer, just like you would in an email attachment. You find the document, and then you select it, and it will appear like this one is here for the user. If you were going to save this, which I'm not going to do, you would click the check. Since I don't want to add it, I'm just going to do the X. So that's how the user adds jobs. Now up to this point, all of the data has had to be added manually. We don't have an import feature. And we did that because the data is really pretty minimal. I mean, you only have one organization, you only have a limited number of departments, and you only have a limited number of grades. If we'd automated that and allowed them to import it, realistically, they would spend more time figuring that out and how to do that than they would just typing it in. But when it comes to employees, we felt a little differently, that employers want to be able to import. So they can import their employees through this functionality here, import. They have to create a file, an Excel file that looks like this. It has employee ID. The fields have employee ID, so say that's 1, the first name is Bob, last name is Brady, full-time or part-time, I'm full-time, so that's a 1. Base wages, they really gave me a demotion, so I'm only making $10,000. I don't get any commissions, I don't get a bonus. And this performance rating, which we're not really using now, allows for a 1 to 5, and Dan thinks I'm doing such a miserable job, he gave me a 1. So once the user gets that data into this Excel spreadsheet, they can save it. Most users will be able, if they have an HRIS system, will be able to download it in that fashion. And once that file they would then save that file. I'm not going to do again. And they would then use this select to go out in their computer and find the file. And then they would just import it and it would bring it in. What it does when it does that, it does not bring some of this other information in. They're going to have to add that manually at this point. If we get traction and get a lot of subscribers who want it, as we find out what people really want, we'll be able to add that functionality. For the time being, we don't have the functionality. They're going to have to add that as they work on it. Some of the other features here, they can add a document, as we talked about. They can make it inactive. This batch import ID, every time you import it, it's going to give it an ID, because we are a little afraid that people have problems with this and they may want to delete. They may make mistakes, so at least they'll be able to identify the records from a specific import and be able to deal with those. One other feature it has here is that it has custom fields. A user can create up to 2 custom fields at this point. They create one by clicking here. They give it a name. They say, is this going to be a text field or do I want a menu? If they want a menu, they can then type in what they want in the first. I'll show you in a second how that works. So now I've created that custom field. It's appearing over here as M2. And if I wanted to use that to put some data into it, I edit that record, and now that this is the AB, the field, the values that we put in for that field. So we think that people will want to be able to create their own custom fields, and we can't really predict how they're going to use them. We're having 2 in there for the time being. If they wanted a lot more, we could add them in after the fact. You can maximize this grid. You can go to the help for this section. You can import the employees. You can show filters in order to work with the data to limit just those records that you want. Here's the managing the fields and then adding a new employee. But a demographic profile, just explaining it, it's saying that, okay, this is where I think I recruit from. If you're down in Tennessee, you're recruiting from Tennessee, probably Nashville, comparing yourself against other employers in the publishing or media area, and so you want to get data against those demographic slices. A demographic profile allows you to say, this is how this is for every job, or for these specific jobs, and then it will pull the data in for all those slices.